Hey YouTube, so we were on our way to Barney Rubble and we were going to take this little green back to get to the coal road, and you'll see here it's flooded. So if you look really carefully on this green, like pretty much like it's up to the radiator area, and you can see like smoke coming up like off the radiator on my Jeep that's on 40s, and everybody in my group's on 37s behind me. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is probably too deep, but let me at least try the edge a little bit to see if maybe the edge isn't as deep. And it still was like kind of like stupid deep. So I just thought, okay, we probably can make it through it, but probably it makes people uncomfortable. So I decided. Instead of doing this green, that we would just go over and do Muddy Shackle, which originally I was kind of wanting to avoid because I didn't think it would be too hospitable in the snow, and probably my first gut instinct was probably the right one. But anyway, we're gonna go do Muddy Shackle, so here comes Muddy Shackle. So here we are. I sped up the camera quite a bit just so there wouldn't be too much of a delay getting over to Muddy Shackle. The trail that we were on was a green that's like right next to Muddy Shackle, and this is the entrance to Muddy Shackle. Hey YouTube, so this is the Muddy Shackle Trail, and we are doing it in snow and ice, even though I originally kind of didn't want to do it. I sped up the first part of this video because the most interesting stuff in the video is actually near the end, and I didn't want this to be too humongous of a video. So the first challenge that I ran into going through this was I actually ran into a lake that I didn't actually remember being on the trail, and I'm assuming it's just because it was so like flooded in the area. Maybe this is always like a little bit watery, but when I got here, I was just like, wow, that's a lot of water. And that was when I kind of looked to the left and I noticed, okay, well, we can just kind of go around it. So, I saw some tire tracks, so some other people had done it before, so it wasn't too big of a deal. And then we get up here a little bit farther to basically the section that I was concerned about. And I actually asked at least the Jeep behind me. I didn't go around and ask everybody. I'm like, are you sure that we want to do this? It's kind of muddy. And I think I remember getting the thumbs up or something, that like, because everybody was so successful on all these trails so far. We hadn't had any kind of problems yet. That I guess this was going to be the first obstacle that was going to be a different type of obstacle that we were going to throw at everybody. And even honestly, I had problems with the obstacle. You'll get to see it. You'll get to see me struggle on an obstacle finally, and we're not quite there yet. But we are just about to this point where we'll slow down the video again, and you'll get to see the obstacle. So yeah, there's obviously rocks here. This is like a pretty rocky trail, very similar to like the BA trail. But this is all flat, and we are right next to the swamp, so there's actually quite a bit of water. And this is where I go back and actually ask the Jeep behind me, and um, you know everybody seems so positive. I'm just like, okay, let's just go ahead and do this. So if you don't know, that this section right here is a big kind of like half moon, and it's this like deep trench, and you basically have to put one tire in the trench, and you'll see that the Jeep, the angle of the camera is like 45 degrees sort of tilted. There's a trench right there that you kind of have to go in, and you'll see this like kind of like real kind of weird angle. And the first part of the trench is basically like a flat drop off, and you'll get to see a better point of view in a second or two. Well, it's more than a second or two. Maybe in a minute, you'll get to see a much better point of view of the trench, like when the Jeep behind me goes through. But you'll see, basically, I'm trying to go up it, and I'm not going up it with like all like everything fully locked. I get the first half up it, but my rear just like does not want to go up it, and I keep kind of gunning it a little bit, and gunning it and gunning it. And like I've said before, I mean, if you get stuck somewhere, like the first rule of thumb is basically like get out and go take a look to see what you're stuck on, see like what the obstacle is. So I get out and I look around and I'm like, okay, it's kind of muddy and there's a big kind of ledge here that I need to get up. So, the first thing in my head is, just like, okay, give it more gas. Which I mean that is sometimes the answer, but it's not usually like the answer. It's actually the more dangerous, like less controlled answer. So here I am again, like giving it some gas, and this of course has been sped up. So the people behind me like are obviously like the Jeeps behind me are obviously watching me struggle. And I get out and I look again, and at this point I'm like, okay, whatever. I gave it my 3 tries, and I'm one of these people. I go to a winch almost immediately. Like I don't really care about like how it looks like if I have to winch. And so I'm just looking and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna get a winch out. I'm gonna winch myself through this, and like I'm gonna be done with it. And the guy behind me is like, hey, I like this line. Like try this like one more time. And I took his advice. I gave it one more shot. I was totally ready to winch, and his advice like completely, you'll see, works. And I just like hop like right up um, the the spot. So it's like what he said was like how to do it, and I got right up it. And all it was just a matter of getting a little bit of a different angle, and then just giving it the right amount of gas. So now basically I'm up it, and I'm going to get out, and like when I get far enough up that 4 Jeeps can get up it, and I'm going to go check on the Jeeps behind me and see if they need to get spotted, now that everybody's seen how to get up it. So now that we're outside, I'm going to have some camera audio so you can actually hear what's going on. A lot of times I play music in the background, so I can't leave the audio on, or YouTube will flag me. So this is a spot where I had the problem at, and the answer is basically just, you know, go as far left as you can. It looks like he's on the right line right here. I mean, this looks good.
Hold on. You're crushing your fender.
So basically he had this kind of weird slide, and what ended up happening is basically he's in a position now where he can't really go forward and he can't go back without damaging the fender. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to winch him. So we got his winch out, and we winched him essentially like 90 degrees. And what this is going to do is this is going to get him with the right like line. And the other thing that happened is because he was like at 11 psi or whatever, when he had that side impact on the wheel, like it knocked the air out of the tire essentially and off the bead. So encounters like this, I typically like the person, you know, assuming their experience, to have the winch line like he does, like you can see that cable going to the driver's seat. And I prefer it when the driver actually has the winch cable than somebody on the outside. That way the driver has full control, like they can give it gas and they can control the winch at the same time with one hand. And so basically what we're doing is now we've decided that now that we have him lined up, you can see that big hole that he's in, like the back tire. That's the part where I was stuck at with the lockers that I couldn't get up. I got by myself basically like where he's at right now, and then you saw like the whole like minute or two video of me trying to figure out how to get out of that spot, and that was where I backed up and got lined up a little bit differently. So now we're going to reposition the winch line. And what we're doing to reposition the winch line is we're now straightening out the winch line so then we can just get them straight up over the ledge. Because if we left it at the angle like that, it would just try to push that back tire more into that hole. And by just having it straight, we can just pull them straight out. And so we're just going to pull them straight out, and then switch a tire, and then just continue from there on out. And this right here, what you're seeing, is pretty much like the only issue that we had in the entire day, and all the rest of the trail riding that we did was like problem free.
Keep going.
So he got a little wrinkle in his fender that you saw, and then I think it popped back out most likely. I'm not 100% sure on that, but like when you go look at it now, I mean it doesn't look so bad. Obviously the tire looks bad, but the actual fender itself, I mean, it doesn't look too bad. There wasn't really any damage to the Jeep. I mean, maybe it needs some alignment, but so here we are. I have a floor jack I always carry with me. I've said that in many videos how helpful it is to have a floor jack. And his lugs were on actually so tight that we couldn't get the impact to get them off, so we had to use a breaker bar to break it, which I also carry. That's something I recommend people carry, a breaker bar and a floor jack. And there's my impact wrench that we're using to get the wheel off and everything. And we're not going to bore you with like how to change a tire, because you know that's like pretty obvious. But anyway, so we changed a tire here, and then you know, we got it back on. We actually tried to rebeat it with air, but there was so much just like goop, we couldn't do that. Hey, so this is basically the last little bit of Muddy Shackle. This is typically the beginning of Muddy Shackle, not the end, because typically, like every single time I've ever ran this, it was in the other direction. And we're basically heading right now to Barney Rubble, and that will be the next trail that we hit.